Good morning, my fellow artists out there. Well, this morning I thought what I would do is half this paper. On this side, we're going to do a little, landscape without water, without wet on, not being wet on wet. Sorry, mouth wouldn't work there. Over here, we're going to do wet on wet. So, what I'm going to do first is I have a little water on my brush, right? I have a little bit of water. And over here, we're going to go up to the sky, halfway across because I'm halving the paper. And I'm on the other side of this hot press paper, so I'm really not sure how it's going to work. But we will find out. So all I'm doing over here, if it'll work like water paper or not, watercolor paper or not. So we'll just kind of blend the sky there. And that's what it looks like on dry paper, the sky. This is all very simple, folks. This is no, painting, so that's not what I'm doing. Okay, so, oops, I think that just grabbed some green. We do not want a green sky. Okay, let me just pull this out of here. Paper towel, okay. I'm on a little different table today. I'm hoping, like anything, that this table doesn't shake a lot. I'm going to wet my paper down to where I want the sky to stop. So you noticed how that went on. Okay, now you can see with water a little difference of what happens, right? The water will, move. It will move around, kind of do some of its own thing, right? You saw it. If you were to zoom in at the time that I put it down on the water, you would be able to and watch it kind of slowly. You'd see how the water moved around. And then also taking it out is going to look different. I couldn't really take out much there. Now we're going to come over here. I'm going to get some green and some yellow ochre and some green. And with just a wet brush, okay? It's a little too wet. Okay, with the wet brush, I'm just going to, make I don't have this tape down. I meant to do that and I didn't. That's okay. We will just continue on. Oops. Okay, so we're just going to put some, what we're pretending to be for this example here. Some grass, a yard. And kind of stopping at the, excuse me, horizon line. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to, excuse me, folks, it's morning, so we'll have to deal with my throat. I so apologize. It's such a pain in the neck, but you have to deal with what you have to deal with. Okay, so we're just going to have some of the color. Green and yellow ochre. A little too much green. And see how it's kind of moves. You can see it moving, which does not happen over there when I just put it on the the dry paper. So, in essence, as typical watercolor, the water will move around a bit when you the paint will move around a bit when you add water. It's a good example on how, how it all works. Dry, wet on wet. Damp brush with paint on dry paper, wet brush with wet paint on wet paper. So now if I want to add, this is still a bit wet, I can add a little water here. And if I want to put in some faraway mountains, again, this is, going to be with wet. So it's just going to kind of, move. The water's going to, and it dilutes the color as well, so that you don't have, you know, strong color going on. Like when you're over here with the dry paper, and the dry, pretty much dry, oops, I didn't want so much green. Pretty much some water on my brush, some no water on the paper. I'm going to get a more pigmented color because I have not used the water to dilute it. Does that make sense, right? Or over here on the other side there, over here, I used water. And when you have the water side, sorry, I should have taped this down. Next time I will. These little things, I just get kind of do what I'm doing, then I stop to do painting, and, you know, these things don't always occur to me. I'm usually on a block. That's why, a block that I've made where I don't have to worry about that. But I'm using up paper kind of fast doing these tutorials, so I'm having my paper, but I had torn this off already from something else on the back side, a different tutorial. So that's why it's off, and I just have to remember to tape it. No harm, no foul. So you see the difference? Much more pigmented. Lines. You've got the lines. Even, you know, I can come in and I can take some out. But that line is there. You know, you've got the, because it was not a lot of water. Over here, it's fuzzy, and so forth and so on. Now, if I want to come in and I want to put another one over this one, I'm still using water, and it's wet. It's still wet, but it's going to still be on the soft side and fuzzy kind of side, even when I'm going over the ones I've already done. They've dried a little, but not too much. So you see the difference there. Now I'll take a lot of that water off my brush, and I will, see, get a little green here with the blue. And not much water. Come back over. Whoops, we didn't get enough on there. Okay, come back over here. Let's use the green. It's gonna, you know, without, it's a little wet right now still, just from any water. But if I come back over, you can, there's not a lot of water going on there, so it's not gonna spread much. But that's layering coming forward. But this is still fuzzy, and it's going to stay fuzzy because I used wet on wet versus dry on wet on dry, or yeah, basically wet on dry. It means my brush was sort of, you know, had water on it to be able to move the paint and get some paint, and it's enough to blend it on my palette, but the paper's dry, so, you know, it's definitely a different effect. Totally different. Well, not totally, but I mean different. So if I go back in and I have more, you know, a little more paint on my brush, you see I'm going to get that look opposed to this look, which for me, I love both looks. It all depends on my mood for the day, what I want to do for the day, what I want to do for a picture. Now, if I wanted to come in and let's say over here, because if I'm going to work with this wet, I've got to keep it wet. So I'm going to wet it again. Oh, and this is hot press paper as well. I meant to mention that. So say I wanted, well, let's say I wanted a rock over here. Whoops. Oh, that color is so dark. Okay, well, I'm going to put in, so I just want to have a big rock right here. Okay. So I'm taking my paint. I'm using black so you can see it well. I don't use black on its own in a painting usually, but it's going to work for this. So you see how it I've hardly got water on my brush. And I mean, there is a lot of water on my brush. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And there's water on the paper. So it's going to have that fuzzy look. And it's going to kind of blend into what I've already got there. Whereas, and opposed to, if I come over here, look at that already. It looks different, see? With not a lot of water. The paper underneath it, the paint is quite dry. Let it dry a bit. You see the difference. I know that you can see the difference. What I add is just going to get darker and darker. So, you know, that's and if I come over here, if I wet my brush and I keep the water, it's still going to be that fuzzy, have the fuzzy look to it. And, you know, for the moment in time, whatever it is, you know, some people, I would say probably most, well, no, I can't really say that, but many, many people love this soft, soft look about watercolor. This is soft, but not as soft as this. So you've got wet on dry and wet on wet, which watercolor is, you know, pretty much known for, I mean, for the most part, or the magical part of watercolor. So I'm going to take, actually, I'm going to grab a smaller flat brush. Before I was using a different brush. And I'm just going to, now if I'm going to put a tree in on each side. If I put a tree in here right now, it's going to blend with everything else. And for the most part, that's kind of what I'm showing you. So I'm going to get some wet on my brush. I don't want too much or it'll just end up being a blur. So we'll just kind of, so we'll come over here. Let's just do it right here. Okay, so I'm putting in this big tree right here. Everything's still kind of wet. Not super wet because, I mean, I want to distinguish the tree. But you see how on the edges, if you zoom in, and especially if you slow down your video and watch it, you will see what I'm talking about. It will, you know, you'll see the water moving. Versus over here, I'm going to draw my tree up, fill it in, and you're not going to see that happening because and when you are doing the dry on wet, you do want the paper to dry. I can come back in over here with the paint to darken it up a little, but as long as that's still wet, and, you know, plenty wet, it's just going to kind of, which is nice because, you know, it gives that nice natural generic effect. Now, if I want to put branches on this one, I'll need to wait until this dries because, you know, we don't, unless you just want such a soft blending. Let's do that, actually. Let's actually do that. Let's go in because that would be good for this exercise. Okay, I'm going to use a rigger brush here. And in this wet one, I'm just going to grate for branches, rigger brushes. But I'm going right into this wet side here. And we're just putting all kinds of little, we don't need to go crazy. We're just making an example here. For the most part, a lot of this is dry. This is a little semi-wet. This is a little more wet down here, as you can see with what's happening to my rock on the top versus over here. So if I come over here, and I hardly have any water, and this is dry, none of that's going to happen that happens over here. And to me, it all has its absolute beauty. I absolutely have fallen in love with watercolor, as I think most people do when they get into it. And I know that you will, any of you that are hoping to someday. Don't wait too long. I waited so stupidly long. I'm sorry, but I did. Just because I thought I couldn't do it. And why, like I said, I will literally never know. Because I was already painting. I was painting in acrylics. And I mean, I should have known. But anyways, we'll leave that there. I was dealing with a very sick husband that eventually passed away, unfortunately, from Parkinson's and dementia. So I was pretty full in everything anyway, and I think that's why my mind went there. I was so busy, I had no time. So I think that my mind just said in its own way, you don't have time. Okay, so enough of that. So let's go over here and let's get some in the wet on wet. A little too much yellow ochre there. And I'm gonna, this is wet on wet. So we're just gonna scribble, just sort of put my, and this is getting dry, so it's not gonna do much at this point, but it's just an example. If it was still wet, this would all blend like this. Whoops, I guess I put my hand in there. All right, well, let's fix that little issue. I put my hand in the, that's what you got to be careful of. Might have been my sleeve, I hope not. Anyway, we have that versus coming over here with a dry paper, pretty much dry paint. You can even hear the difference. So, you're going to have, I thought I wet my paints, but it doesn't seem it. So you see it, you're going to have, it's going to be different. You're going to hear it. It's going to look different, more pigmented like everything else I did. Really quick example here. Keep moving my paper. So really kind of to explain, that's how wet on wet works. This is how wet on dry works. But if I was doing a painting, there's one thing I'm going to do. I'm going to put in a sky that's wet, and everything I don't mind that's going to blend together, I will put down. But for instance, if I had done this and I was doing it, specific, and I wanted specific things, I would let the sky dry, then I'd put the mountains. Then I might let the mountains dry and put in the grass, and let the grass dry, or for the most part, and put in the rock. It would be dry for the tree, and then nothing would spread. But if you want the spreading, that's how it works. And even if you do want that, a lot of times, it's really all in what you want, folks, for a end result. It's all what you want to see and how you are deciding to paint that day with your paints. No wrong, no right. Excuse me, no, this is prettier than that, that's prettier than this. That's not what it is. It's just the different ways, to be able to paint in watercolor, because it's totally beautiful either way. And then, of course, you can continue on, whatever. But that's all I wanted to do for this particular tutorial, to explain those things in a very simple beginner style way, because that's what my channel is based and geared for, is beginners. And to hope that you will you'll get some paper and some paint and some brushes, or even just one. You only need one, to tell you the truth, just to start and see if it would be certainly more helpful if you did more than one, maybe a couple. But you only really need one brush, and just see if you even like the feel of it. But I would give it time, and I would give it a chance like anything else, and also give yourself a chance to get used to what you're learning, because it's all about learning it. It's a lot of it is learning it. So anyway, I hope this helped, folks. I hope it gave you some helpful information. Check out my other tutorials as well. There's a lot of stuff in there. I'm getting my channel built up, and I'm so thankful for all of you that visit and put some comments in, constructive, nice comments. I can say right off the bat, I'm not going to bother to answer anything that's rude or critical. So constructive criticism is one thing. Rude criticism is another, and I'm not wasting my time. on that. So thank you all for visiting. I hope you come back and have a most wonderful day. Bye for now.